Hi, I'm Dr. Gilgamesh, and I'd like to introduce you to my podcast, Emotional Anatomy. It's an intelligently designed anatomy that has as its goal the recruiting your interest and curiosity as to how it works so that you can become more familiar with it and, as a result, better at it and enjoy it more. Welcome. Hi there. Well, I'm challenging you to evaluate me. I'm challenging you to see that as a scientist, I'm claiming that there's a language we can use to help us see how the mind works. We're collaborators. Each of us has personal responsibility in this endeavor. In the olden days, they used to say ego, id, and superego. Go figure it out, and if you've got a decent ego, you'll do well. Well, that becomes the temptation to blame others instead of contribute to others. And so I am suggesting that these principles that we are discussing in this podcast is going to help us understand how the mind works instead of believing it to be something that we can manipulate and control versus recognize, understand, and use effectively, excitedly, to assist each other in seeing how it works and begin talking with each other in a way that is confident in understanding how our own mind works and helping others see it as well. Now, it's such a slow process because there is what I refer to as a tug of war. It's a battle for control over your thoughts and ideas. It would seem as though it's a battle inside the mind, you see. I also can understand it as a battle globally, that we're talking about thought process. We're talking about the story of freedom. Now, immediately that, of course, sends connotations of politics around the world because the oligarchs are pointing out correctly that freedom is really going through a tough time and democracy is really going through a tough time. It is because we've lost our way and we're not aware of it. We are unable to right ourselves because the concept of freedom meant I get to do whatever I please instead of understanding that it is freedom to become an effective force to make the world a better place because we're here. Yes, you are important and valuable to the future of the world. And I say that on purpose to challenge you to recognize that the thoughts, the ideas, the words you use, the expressions you use, all have influence upon yourself, your family, your neighbors, your community. And these concepts are being addressed so that we can then have an effective contribution out of our lives instead of being trapped in unconscious ways. You see, when we understand how the mind works, we can help each other develop this skill. This isn't dependent upon politics. This isn't dependent upon our government system. This is how the human mind works. So humans all over the globe are struggling in a similar way, that they become slave to their default emotional reflexes. And the concept of unconscious is also unaware. Right? The concept of unconscious means I haven't given it thought. All right. Well, it's because the teachers are as yet unaware. The children have not yet been taught about how marvelously their emotions are designed to free them into their creative personalities, into their original personalities, into the intention of life being to make life better. You see, that what we're seeing is a tug of war. No, life is so that I can acquire more, or that I'm first and you're second, that these preoccupations are in a tug of war between stories. I'm claiming a story of important and valuable to the future of the world, that we are made this way on purpose to impress you so that you would then get excited about your personal contribution to the future of the world. This is freedom. Freedom is excited about its contribution to the future of the world. The free choice to think of something better rather than stuck free to be me, 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 me. Now, you see, that's a slavery to a preoccupation that does not allow the liberation of the better idea for how to contribute to the better world. And so I couch this as the story of freedom because I believe it to be an understanding that the mind works according to principles that can be understood and therefore experienced as a great gift to each of us. That each of us are privileged to realize that we're free to choose a pathway inside the heart, mind, body, soul, spirit that would allow you to be liberated in your ability to see what's going on, to understand, to become aware. That it is through awareness that then your free choice can more accurately contribute to the future of the world. Now, of course, there's tug of war. Who cares about the future of the world is a stuck place, a prison within which many people live. That I think that unfortunately that greed has been commented as being the problem for all of us. Well, and I'm sure that's true. That greed is in competition with the liberation of contribution to a better world. And therefore, the language that develops out of this becomes critical. Because as we are aware that all of us have our greedy sides, and that in many respects, I'm greedy too. I'm hopeful that my ideas may contribute to the betterment of the world. All right, so better to be aware that no, I'm personally privileged to share a concept of freedom to choose that is not political, that is not dependent upon our governments. This freedom to choose comes from within the heart, and it is designed into the organism so that it's the most rewarding experience on the planet. That when you're free to choose for the better, right, then the reward is naturally present within you. In fact, it's so rewarding that I could claim that it's the most addictive substance on earth. In fact, in this tug of war between stories, addiction becomes a very valuable understanding that slavery to chemical substance may seem rewarding, but only because it has shut down the mind and shut down awareness and given you a very limited picture of the world. Oh no, it's expansive. Well, you're stuck in your expansion instead of being able to see the freedom to choose something better. Now, that is expansive as well, but and it is very rewarding, and I claim that it's more rewarding than any drug that you can discover. But you see, a prisoner wants their freedom. So they seek their freedom through drugs, through any expression of personal privilege, through greed. They seek their freedom through materialism. They seek their freedom through power and control. I am suggesting that this freedom happens to us because it's built into the organism, and that it is the most rewarding experience that we have on earth. And it is in competition with our default emotional reflexes inflicted upon us by serial wounds throughout our lives that leave wounded emotional anatomy, and it never grows back. So that then we're stuck with this wounded emotional anatomy for our lives. But today what I'm going to do is present to you that the subconscious is not subconscious at all. It has to do with unaware. That when you are made more aware, then what used to be subconscious becomes aware. Now, we're going to help each other do that, but my claim is that in order to accomplish it, we must learn about emotional anatomy. Because my claim is that the mood determines the movie. The emotion determines the movie. That as you look into this world and try to understand it, your mood decides the movie that's running in your mind's eye. I've said it before, right? The gamers are up to 60 frames per second, and some 80 frames per second. But this is many millions of words. If a picture is worth 1,000 words and the mind is operating in movies, which is what I'm claiming this is the story of freedom, a movie profound that offers you the opportunity to navigate the ocean of emotion and discover that there is a place inside of you designed to explode your awareness. It offers a highly rewarding experience of expansive awareness. I won't cover it in detail today, but there are ways, single breath gratitude relief, of accomplishing heart home and witnessing this lens of awe and wonder. But now check this out with me. Default emotional reflexes. How can I become aware of them? All right, so I've been wounded. Yes, indeed I have. So if one of my insecurities pops up in this broadcast of ideas to you, I'll right now, as a matter of fact, as I stumble over a few words to try to convey, I get to feel my insecurities and sense of inadequacies. I mean, I sat next to perhaps the most brilliant man of our century. I'm privileged to have had relationship that way. So, all right, what difference does that make? It's inspirational, indeed. But for me, the inspiration is the privilege of sharing a language with you so that you might be inspired to witness that your freedom is available to you. And that freedom is as simple as gratitude guides your heart home, where you discover the lens of awe and wonder. All right, well, there are default emotional reflexes that immediately interrupt. I mean, I have plenty of examples of people who have struggled with gratitude. I mean, that's one of the immediate triggers to default emotional reflexes. Thank you for what? You can't expect me to be grateful for this or that. And if that's at the cornerstone of your ideas, then I don't want any part of it. One of my buddies said to me, it's like chewing granite. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, well, in many respects, he's correct, because what happens when you pursue gratitude is you begin to see all of the default emotional reflexes that are interrupting your return to your heart's home. And these default emotional reflexes do so repeatedly all day long, including my insecurities. And anything else that you might like to add of preoccupation with my greedy self. Thank you. I see these distractions is the awareness and the beginning of the pathway that returns heart home. The example? All right, I'm a young guy traveling south to my home in San Diego, and I want to avoid LA. I'm coming from the further east in the States. I'm coming home from college, and I'm having a grand time driving. And back then, I'm looking for this road that goes south, 395. It's going to be a little green sign on the side of the road, and certainly no intersections, no stoplights at that time. I'm that old, and that I'm just thrilled. The semester's over. I'm going home to see my family, but I surely do not want to have to pass through Los Angeles. The metaphor is, I surely do not want to have to repeat that side of me that I hate. I surely do not want to have to repeat that emotional reflex that happens to me all the time. Why did I do that again? How did I do that again? Oh my goodness, you stupid idiot. You jerk. No. All the self-talk that comes up when I make my mistakes. Thank you, I see that. Gratitude reboots the machine, but gratitude also returns you hard home where there is the lens of awe and wonder, and you get to stand back and see with awe what's going on here. So I'm traveling south, trying to get to San Diego, and all of a sudden, I smell Los Angeles. Whew, I'm in the middle of the desert. It's just cactus out there. That's all it is. I can't see a thing, right? Except for just flat land everywhere. But I smell Los Angeles. I know I've made the wrong turn. And now I must make that turn and go back to understand what's just happened. I pull over to the side of the road, whip out the map. I say, yeah, I get it. I must have missed that turn because there's no reason I should be smelling Los Angeles if I were traveling south to San Diego. The only way I could be smelling Los Angeles if I was continuing straight toward the city. All right. We need to learn to smell those emotions that cause us the most grief, those default emotional reflexes that make us sick and tired of ourselves. Others can point them out to us, but it's our personal responsibility to recognize and deal with them effectively. And therefore, this language that would help you sense, smell, taste, touch your emotional reflex before it takes hold of you. Thank you. I see it, I feel it, I sense it. And I return hard home. I stand back in awe. Sure enough, I turn around, I go back 20 minutes, and there's that little green sign on the side of the road. I must have spaced out, etc. I turn and go south, and no longer was I smelling Los Angeles. But the concept of emotional anatomy is that primitive. You can smell your emotions coming. You feel your emotions coming. You recognize patterns of influence upon your personality that if, in fact, you decide freedom versus slavery, which is the summation of all psychological science, if you should decide freedom over slavery, then you must deal with your default emotional reflexes and choose for the better. Until next time, thanks very much. I'm genuinely excited about bringing you a new awareness of the mind and how it works. Emotional anatomy, heart-home wisdom, being able to see through the lens of awe and wonder. These podcasts are free, but you can contribute to them and make them possible through patreon.com/emotional anatomy. Please also join us on our Facebook group. Thank you.